Welcome back to a new video, today featuring the Dacia Duster 4x4, the TCE 130. We've also taken a look at the full hybrid before. I'm not sure which video will come first, either this one or the full hybrid. And we're going to take this car a bit off-road now, exactly what the 4x4 is made for. Just take a ride on some hiking trails, well, not necessarily, but on country roads and a bit in the forest, and see how the all-wheel drive system works and how the cost-performance ratio is too. So stay tuned, we'll cover everything about this car that there is. This is the TCE 130 engine, as it is the only engine where you can get the 4x4 system, combined with a 6-speed manual transmission. That means if you want an automatic, you definitely need to go for the full hybrid 140. We've covered that engine in a video too. Here we have exactly 130 horsepower and 230 Newton meter with a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder engine. One difference we have here compared to the usual, like the 140, or also to liquefied petroleum gas. Here's the bumper, and you get it so that you have a higher angle of approach. Here there's a different apron at the front, meaning you can go over larger areas much better without bottoming out. So, we've arrived in the area where we're going to do some off-roading. The 4x4, you can already see the interior. I don't know if you've seen our full hybrid video yet, but otherwise, you can already see small differences inside, including now the 6-speed manual transmissions, stick shift, and the drive mode button. There are a few different settings. We're now in auto mode, which is also good for the conditions, because otherwise there's also the eco mode, which you can use very well on the road, or the snow mode, or even the sand mode. That means in snow mode, for example, it lets the car slide a bit more, spinning wheels so that you can essentially stuff yourself into the snow until you gain traction again. In sand mode, for instance, it's the opposite. You don't want to get buried, especially in the desert or something. You want to try to stay on top of the sand. That's where the spinning wheels really don't get a chance. But what we can't try out now, of course, we can only test what the car is actually meant for a forester, or for people who just occasionally want to go off-road a bit. When you're on rougher roads, just like right here, there are a few spots too. But what I can say right away is, we have an indirect steering that works on roads. Little feedback is given, which is not so optimal theoretically, but it is good for off-road driving, because if the steering were really hard, it would almost partially take the wheel from you, kind of getting out of control. That's not the case here. You feel very safe on the paths, but precisely on open roads, you don't get much feedback from the car. The cornering is a bit tricky to judge at times, but here in off-road areas, it all feels very, very good. And we've also had, just briefly, a few wetter corners, but now it doesn't feel like we're losing any grip or anything. On the contrary, the grip is very, very good, and we can step on the gas a bit. Wheels are spinning a bit right now. Actually, never mind. So it feels really, really good. And it's really made for the conditions, for forest paths and the like. Everything already feels good, because we have this different bumper here at the front, unlike the normal full hybrid. So they've made it a bit flatter with the 4x4, resulting in a higher approach angle. 31 degrees in front, 34 degrees at the back, and a breakover angle of 24 degrees. That means it's really good for off-road situations where it gets a bit bumpy, because we don't bottom out, and be able to navigate terrain safely. Now, of course, we're on the road, and we've got the naturally aspirated engine here that you might just hear a little bit. You'll notice it right away, because with a full hybrid, you have a turbocharged engine, for example. Here, you only get the real power in the higher RPM range, which you wouldn't have otherwise. With a turbocharged engine, peak power is reached a bit earlier, but not with a naturally aspirated engine. Otherwise, it's just the same setup as with the full hybrid. Here we have the digital display that you can theoretically adjust. What I found a bit more challenging to get used to was the display for the manual transmission. That means the RPM is sometimes a bit important. Sure, when you drive the car longer, you can just do it super by feeling, but I find it a bit confusing that you don't have a circle, but your RPM just goes from left to right. At first, you need to get a bit used to it. I just turned on the camera for fun. Now there's the first test, so to speak, for the approach angle at the front. Is that really good? I think we shouldn't bottom out. But we're also going to drive slowly to not bottom out. But that's definitely a proper hole over there, which is something you definitely have to take slowly. Felt very, very safe. Now I'm taking Henrik with me again, but it feels really, really good. And as I said, because we just have an updated approach angle with the new bumper, therefore making it ideally equipped for such conditions. Whether you actually use it for such conditions that often, I doubt it, but sure, if you're theoretically a forester or something, then it's indeed perfect. By the way, there's also an all-road info button here, which means you can see the incline and stuff. For instance, how the distribution of the 4x4 system currently is. Right now, we have 99% of the power on the front wheels. And something else that's good, you see, we have some pretty deep grooves in front of us, But because we have a ground clearance of, I think about 21.7 centimeters is just no problem at all. No need to worry at all. The suspension is somewhat designed for it, especially since you'd notice it if you'd have a stiffer suspension here. Then it would really blast through, but as it is, even with the massive bumps, it doesn't rip the steering wheel out of your hands. And of course you get shaken up a bit, it's inevitable, but everything feels very, very safe. And the faster we go, the more it does. Here you can see a bit of how the 4x4 system works. Right now we even have a 50-50 distribution, I think if I drive a bit faster now, but there are very deep grooves coming up. That's why I'm not doing it right now. Now let's try to slide on top of these grooves. Let's see if we can manage that. 9. But all of this feels very good. Unfortunately, we did not manage that now. You'll probably need a bit more time off-road until you've really got it down. We've slipped a bit, unfortunately, but if I drive a bit faster, the 4x4 system spreads out for sure. That means you always have a pretty good distribution and get along well here. Through these wet passages, again here in the curve, we should get through now without any issues.
Yes, sir.
No problem, now you see we're going faster. Distribution at 50-50. Now I'm taking my foot off the gas, then he tweaks it a bit. It's definitely fun to drive the car around here, and that's exactly what it's meant for, to bring a bit of adventure into the Dacia Duster. Or it was already before too. But the fact that you can just drive the car anywhere you want without worrying at all. And even with all the plastic cladding around the edges, even if we touch a tree a bit, or let's say you take a branch that would normally scratch the paint, you don't have that problem here. You have plastic that's painted through. That means even if there are scratches, it all doesn't look too bad. If you'd like a closer look at the interior again, we've already uploaded videos for that, where we took a closer look at the car. Today was really just a bit of a small outing with the 4x4 into the off-road area, to see if one really feels safe here, and if you can use the car for that, to see if it's also suitable for it. And so far, I would definitely say yes, it can be used really well for that. Let's see if I can get the wheel to float in the air. So, you don't get any feedback in the inside about the floating wheel, but that's a really good thing. Yeah, exactly, it feels very safe inside, so that's really incredible. But it looks pretty cool now, the way it's standing there, doesn't it? Looks good to me. What needs to be said? If we had gone in extremely fast just now, that's why in off-road areas it's always important to drive slowly. Then we would have come in here extremely fast, which means we could have bottomed out, so always be a bit careful there. It's definitely fun. You can really drive the car well, even under extreme conditions. It's a bit dry, so it's not that wet today. 1 to 2 puddles were indeed present, but if you encounter really wet conditions again, you then face somewhat different traction problems. That could well be the case. But we didn't notice that at all here. What's really good is, if we're out of the woods now and hit the country road, theoretically doing 100 all the way home or something, the CMFB platform you have here is really quiet, and that was a pleasant surprise for me. So we're going to drive 100 kilometers here too. When there are wind noises, they are really minimal. I really have to say, okay, wow. You see that even with cars that are much more expensive and supposedly should have a much better quality, not at all. And the platform has also significantly increased the number of assistance systems. Side traffic warner cruise control, traffic sign detection, everything included. And the good thing is, you have a button here that you can use to turn it all off. Especially the speed warner, the one you have, that yes, gives off a sound directly at higher speeds if you drive too fast. That's now standard. According to EU regulations, you can turn it off right away with that. Manufacturers are somehow looking for a way that you can easily turn them off. So it's a great regulation that's fun. That was a little off-road drive with the new Dacia Duster 4x4. I hope you liked it, and I hope that it gave you a bit of an insight about how everything works with the new bumper, the approach angle, and all the other things that have been optimized. I really enjoyed it, and was also pleasantly surprised by the car's capabilities, though it wasn't the most extreme off-road paths that you might be used to from test parks or something like that. But still, I think he handled it well, and for everyday use, if you really want to use it for such conditions, then it's absolutely sufficient. Unfortunately, You can only get it as a manual transmission. There is no automatic for the 4x4. You have to limit yourself a bit. By the way, there are no longer any diesel variants. They were replaced with the full hybrid. I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe and like. It would help us incredibly. And if you want to check out the full hybrid or the different variants, then make sure to check them out on the top right or on our channel. So definitely check them out, and I wish you a lovely day. Take care. Bye bye.